lovelies, welcome to Musings with me. You're with Lisa and Butterfly Effect for Happiness. I've just been musing lately about our internal dialogue and where that comes from and what effect that has on our lives. And that internal dialogue is the voice that you hear depending on what you are doing, how you are reacting or responding, and it impacts every part of your life. If you think about when you are getting up in the morning and what that voice is saying to you, I can't be bothered, oh my god, I just want to stay in bed, all those sorts of things, what you want to be doing for the day or not doing for the day, how you look, get into the bathroom, how you look, what you're saying about yourself, if you spill something, what are you saying, how are you speaking to self, all of that, all through your day has an impact on how you feel, and that impact spreads out to those people around us, and that really impacts on your children's lives. So if you think about the voice that is within your head, where did it come from? Where did that internal dialogue come from? Because we aren't born with one. We don't come out of the womb with negative thoughts and ways of speaking to self and telling ourselves how terrible we are and how useless and how ugly or too thin or too fat or too not courageous enough, and why didn't I do it that way? I should have done this or I should have done that. We're not born with that. We're born feeling whole. We're born feeling worthy. We're born knowing our innate value and worth, and that we have something to offer this world just in the space of who we are, just being. And then somewhere along the way, we lose that, and we take on those labels and those perceptions that others have of us, whether that's the naughty little 2-year-old, or how could you do that, that's so naughty, or the things that other adults say to us, and then we progress through our lives, and we end up taking on board all those ideas and thoughts and things that we have heard along the way, and we carry them with us. I'll give you an example and it's taken me a long time to be able to talk about this without getting upset about it. And you may think that it's a bit of a nothing, but for me at the time, as an 11-year-old, it was a huge event in my life, and it shaped who I chose to be after that and as a result of that. So in Form 2, which would be year 8 or year 9 in New Zealand, I had an art teacher, and we were in art class, and I was talking, and he thought I had called him something. He thought I had called him some name. I don't know what it was. And so he decided that it would be a really good idea to get me up in front of the class and tape my mouth shut. So he got tape, bearing in mind this was the early 80s, not that it was okay then, and it definitely is not okay now. Nobody would get away with that kind of behaviour as a teacher. But he taped my mouth shut, and I took it. I wasn't an outspoken kid. I was very quiet. I made a few really good friends, and I didn't really speak up in class a lot, for fear of not being good enough, whole pile of other things. And so I was completely embarrassed and absolutely mortified, and I sat down at my table and I never ever spoke in that class again, ever. Not when he asked me anything. I lost all my desire to do art. I had loved art prior. Not with him. He was never a favourite of, never a teacher that I warmed to, and he certainly reinforced that by the act that he did. And he told me that I was a chatterbox and that I needed to be quiet. And I took that on board, and I was too scared to speak up after that again. Therefore I stopped doing art. I didn't take art at high school because of it. I lost a lot of respect for teachers, and I lost a huge amount of respect, worthiness, self-esteem, and courage as a result in myself. And for years afterwards, I wouldn't try with art because all I could imagine and hear was him telling me how I was a chatterbox and that I talked too much. And that had a direct impact on my ability to actually get into the flow of where you need to be to do art, to connect in and allow that creative part of yourself to come forward. So that had a huge impact, and how he spoke to me and how he treated me impacted me for the rest of my life in that way. However, because of the way that he treated me, and when I did become a primary teacher, I chose never to behave like that with the children that I taught. So my students, who I have been requested to be friends with, and I feel much honour in that. They have asked for me to be friends on Facebook, and I truly value that, because I therefore chose to be a better voice in their heads going forward, so that later on, when they looked back on their teachers or significant adults in their life, they could know that somebody had believed in them, that somebody could see their value, no matter what they heard outside of school, no matter what they heard from each other or other adults, that they would hopefully carry a little piece of magic that they had received in my classroom that they could carry with them for life, and hopefully that would spark something in them to know how valuable they are, how worthy they are, and how amazing they are. And that came as a result of that teacher speaking to me in that way and treating me in that way. And it also, and I am not going to say that I am any sort of legendary parent who has been amazing with their children, because I have yelled, I have screamed, I have manipulated, I have threatened, I have done everything that I hoped I would never do as a parent to get my children to conform to whatever it was that needed to happen, because you need to be in certain places at certain times on certain days doing whatever is required, and my children have suffered as a result. However, when we know better, we do better. And I wish that I had had more adults in my life who had taught me the intrinsic value of just being here on this earth and what we have to offer the world just by being ourselves. And that's not to say that I don't value my parents, because they brought me up and they helped me become who I am, and I have many memories of being told how amazing I was or how good I was. But that's a whole other story for another day and another topic. But today it's about, I do wish that I had heard more often how magic I was. I wouldn't be having to do the work to undo those inner voices that I carry with me, those limiting beliefs that have become part of my makeup, that have stopped me achieving what I wanted to achieve, because of other people's voices that have become my own. So I think it's really important that we think about and consider our voices for ourselves and how we speak to ourselves. When we tell ourselves that we're stupid and we're never going to achieve that, and what if it never happens, and I'm too this or too that, or too old or too fat or too thin or too female or not a man, or whatever it is that we're labeling ourselves with, we need to start being kind to self. We need to speak to ourselves with love. We need to speak to ourselves with deep compassion, and know that we are doing the best that we can with what we know at the time. And when we know better, we do everything we can to be better. We really do. And when we speak to ourselves with the expectation that we already have achieved that we are valuable, that we are worthy, that we are lovable, that we are good enough, then we can achieve so much more. And it's simply in becoming aware of those thoughts within ourselves as we go through our day, and we just catch ourselves as often as possible before we track off down those negative thinking and those patterns that we have so deeply instilled in ourselves. And then when we think about that and we transfer that into how we speak to our children, remember that how we speak to our children, what we say, how we say it, and how often we say it, becomes the voice in their head. When we yell and carry on and we blame and we speak to them in ways that are not in honour of their magic, of their innate wisdom, of their worthiness, of their beauty, of their absolute magic that they bring to us, and what they have created for us, and how they teach us along the way. And I know we can't remember that in all moments. I don't remember it when I'm yelling at my son to go and clean up his room because he's just throwing everything in the doorway, which triggers me. But when we can remember that as often as possible, and we speak to the magic in our children, watch them flourish. Watch them thrive instead of always running themselves down or saying how stupid they are or whatever it is. And when we can support them in that, and we can do it as often as we remember, they will remember that. They will remember as they go through their day how you were with them. They will remember the things that you say when they need to remember them. When they're out with mates, it may be what you said just before they left, that stops them making a decision that could impact the rest of their lives in a negative way. The way you speak to them daily and how you engage with each other impacts them. It allows their inner voice to be their strength. It allows it to be their courage, and it allows it to be their own wisdom, a caring, kind, and compassionate wisdom that carries them forward in their lives. And with that, I really hope you find that this lands with the intention that it is said with. It is said with love. It is said with kindness. It is said with compassion, deep, sincere compassion. It is said with knowing that we are all only ever doing the best that we can do in each moment with what we know how. And it is said knowing that every time I make a mistake, it's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to develop further in my wisdom and in my understanding of life. So with that in mind, I hope that if this is the beginning of your day, you are about to have the most magnificent day. And if it is the end of your day, I hope that you have had the most magnificent day. And if you haven't, give yourself a break. Sit with yourself and speak kind words. Tell yourself that it's okay, we've got tomorrow, and we can do a better job tomorrow, and we can try our best tomorrow. And with that, I offer you masses of love, masses of light, and I'll talk to you on another